So I believe that's the first question is for you, Luiz. How do you explain a spirit communicating through a medium in a language the medium does not know?
Okay, language is a consequence of being incarnate. Before you speak, you think in images. That's proved by science. Before, for example, I can tell him, I'm going out for a walk. I thought and I imagined myself being out there walking. So it's a consequence. Language is not the first thing, it's the last in the chain of events. So thought comes before the vocal cords moving. So when mediumship takes that way in psychophony, where the communicating spirit is going to force, if you will, or make the medium vibrate its vocal cords, his vocal cords, to address what the message was. Before that, thought was formed in the medium's mental field. So the brain, which is the biological, takes biological control of the body, the brain receives that from the mind through the pineal gland, and it will cause the nervous system to make it all happen, the same way as if the thought was mine. I'm going out for a walk.
Thank you, Luiz. Why might two mediums in the same room experience different phenomena? So, both of you.
Can you repeat the question,
Yes.
please?
Why might two mediums in the same room experience different phenomena, different things?
Okay, so the mediums are experiencing what happens in the spiritual world, right? So when Luiz described that a medium is seeing a spirit sitting in this chair, another medium here can look at the chair and don't see any spirit there. Why? Different realms, different levels of vibration. So I'm vibrating at one level that allows me to see someone sitting there. Luiz is vibrating at a different level, and so what he's seeing is a lake and a waterfall. So he's not seeing anyone sitting there. Why? Different levels of vibration. So two mediums at the same place, vibrating at different levels, are going to experience different things and see different things. So it's very common in a mediumship meeting when you ask for mediums to describe what they are seeing or what they experienced, that they describe completely different things. And they were there, both in the same place. They went to different places in the spiritual world. They had different levels of connection with the spiritual world, so they are going to see different things. There is a book by Divaldo Franco and Raul Teixeira called, in English, Guidelines for Safety, Diretrizes de Segurança in Portuguese, that this question is asked to Divaldo or to Raul, and they answer exactly, it's exactly this question, exactly repeating the answer they gave to us in that book, okay?
Thank you, João. Is it possible for a medium to live a normal life? Any of you?
Well, first define normal life. Right? Okay, normal life includes a lot of things. Culture, it includes the environment where the incarnated spirit is inserted. A normal life in a big city is not the same as a normal life in, way inside the country, so it's different. So a normal life, I'm gonna take the question as not being impacted by spiritual influences so much. That's the way I'm gonna go, because the question is not very clear. So influences will happen. See, just think of an email. You have email, okay? And somebody decides to send a lot of spam to you. Can you stop him from spamming? No, you can't. Because he's got free will. He's got the equipment that's going to send email. You have to deal with that once it hits your inbox. Then you have to, I don't want this thing. I'm going to block this guy. I'm going to respond, whatever. You have to deal with this after the fact. So it's about the same. We are all subjected to influences, more or less. Mediums are more susceptible to those influences than not mediums or people who have less sensitivity. And the medium, and that's what we call develop the mediumship. I don't like the term, but that's what we call, which is to learn how to deal with that. When you learn how to deal with spam coming to your inbox, oh, I'm just going to throw them all out. Hit the delete button. That's your way of, quote, fixing it. It's the same thing. So the influences will happen, and you're going to throw them out. Some of them you will take, the good ones, of course. And the bad ones, you're going to let go. Just discard it. And that will lead towards what we call the normal life, where bad influences do not impact you as much as good influences. We don't want bad influences anyway.
I think that the question should be, can mediums live in society? And that, because that's in the end what we are trying to say here, right? And the key here is to educate your mediumship. If you educate your mediumship, you can live in society perfectly well. If you have an uncontrolled mediumship, it can make your life very difficult. It can be hard to live in society. But if you follow and study and educate your mediumship, you can live in society perfectly, and a lot of mediums do live perfectly well in society.
If you don't educate, you can harm the society. Yes. Depending on the situation.
I guess we know why Givaldo doesn't drive, right?
Yeah, in a somewhat follow-up question to the one that you just answered, why are there so many mediums with malevolent tendencies?
Tendencies meaning type of mediumship, right? Psychography for some, psychophony for others, that's what I think it is, the question. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on, first, spiritual history. It depends on the purpose of that person's mediumship. It depends on the pineal gland. It depends on overall what that person can do with mediumship. For example, there's no point in having a great psychography medium that's going to produce books and written things in areas where people are not educated, they're not literate. They won't be able to read. It wouldn't make any sense. There's no point, for example, in having mediumship or a medium that's going to speak on behalf of incarnating spirits, but in a language that's not the language where he is inserted. It's out of context. So that's why there are different types, different possibilities to address what the goal is for that particular type of mediumship.
And one important thing is here, mediumship is neutral, right? The use we make of mediumship is what is positive or negative, like money. Money is neutral. How you use your money, it can be for goodness or for not so good things, right? So mediums are just normal people, and how they vibrate and how they behave themselves on their daily lives is going to reflect on how they use their mediumship. Some of them will take advantage of this gift that they have to personal advantages and so on and so forth, and some will use for the benefit of humankind, like Divaldo and Chico, for instance.
Thank you. Thank you. How do we know if the message from a medium comes from a good or more elevated spirit?
You got to look into the context, right? That's something that Allan Kardec explains, and he had to experience that himself. right? He was the first one to have to go through a million messages and select the good ones and the bad ones. So first of all, the medium has to have discernment. He has to be educated enough in mediumship to have that discernment. Bad messages will produce something that the medium himself is not going to feel good about somehow. You can't, because if you're producing bad things, even if it doesn't come from you, but it's your thought that formed the whatever you're going to speak, and you speak bad things, that's not going to be good for the medium himself or herself. Not necessarily at the time, but you will. You will impact that physical body somehow. Good messages, when the medium produces these good messages, or even better, reproduces these good messages, they feel good. They don't feel bad. They will feel great and good and vibrant and grand, this grand sensation of good things. So bad messages are, the minute the medium senses that he's not going to feel good enough, that's a bad message already. And of course, discernment on morality. Morality is what needs to be understood. That's what she was talking about. Morality is about right or wrong, but there's a catch. You cannot say that something is right or wrong if you don't have a reference. If you don't have a reference. For example, I can say that people in blue coats are great. Everybody else is not. So I'm right, everybody else is wrong. It's okay, but what reference am I using? My own reference. Your reference might be people in white shirts are great, the others are not. It can be okay, but it's your reference. So we cannot be the reference. We cannot establish the truth to be used as a reference. There's only one reference, which is the moral of reference, the one brought to us by Jesus. That is what allows me to say right or wrong. And that's the only one. Everything else is opinion. Right? So we got to have that in mind too.
When in doubt, do not accept, do not reject. Put it aside. Wait until you have a better understanding or a more intellectual involvement, so you can go back to the message and analyze if it's good or bad. Kardec said it's better to reject than to accept one lie. Why did he say that? Because the truth will always prevail. So if you put aside the truth now because you're not ready yet for it, eventually you'll come back because it's the truth. Now accepting a lie can create a very dangerous path for you and for those around you. And we are seeing that nowadays, unfortunately, right? That we have a lot of dissemination of lies that are creating a lot of problems throughout the world. So put it aside. If you are in doubt, put it aside.
Yeah, that is truth not only on mediumship, but also in everything, all the messages.
In everything in life, yeah.
Everything in life.
Very good. Why is the word mediumship not found in the Bible?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are not found in the Bible. Reincarnation, mediumship, why not? You see certain words. First of all, I'm going to take away the problem with translation. So let's set it aside. Now, when somebody comes to us and says, show me in the Bible where the word, let's go first to reincarnation, where the word reincarnation is. Then you put a search and you don't find it. Reincarnation is not to be seen, same for mediumship, is not to be seen as a word, but as a concept. It's not a word, it's a concept. Mediumship is not necessarily a word, it's a concept. And it doesn't have to be declared on written text as a word. The fact that, for example, going back to the Bible, Moses does not allow people to talk to the dead. That's the concept of mediumship, but the word is not going to be there. That's why we don't find it as a word. We find it as a concept.
Yeah, and thinking about Moses, right? How did he receive the 10 Commandments? If it's mediumship, but it's not written there. And when Moses, on what Luis said, when Moses forbids you to communicate with the dead, you don't forbid something that doesn't happen, right? Because you don't need to forbid if it doesn't happen. So if he forbids, it's because it happens. That's mediumship again, right?
Thank you. Why is it common for multiple mediums to reincarnate within the same family?
Karma. But we can go easy. We can hit the brakes here. Because it's for that spirit is most favorable. Some spirits have to incarnate in environments that not necessarily they like, but you're offsetting wrongdoings of the past, whether you know or not, whether you accept or not. That's why you have to be inserted into that context. And family is the same thing. Family is part of the context. So you come back with the same people or people you have to offset things with, or they have to offset with you. And you have to, and you are there to give them the chance to offset. It's called forgiveness. If you don't forgive, you're going to have to offset this later. So forgiving and asking for forgiveness go both ways. So incarnating in the same family means something that there's a shackle somewhere, binding you both from the past.
Makes sense. Another one here. Which books would you recommend for furthering the study of mediumship?
Of course, the basic book is the Medium's book, right? If you have to start with the Medium's book, if you are really interested in studying mediumship. If you want to have a vague notion of mediumship, then there are other books that because the Medium's book is going to be a difficult one because it's a very thick book. But after reading the Medium's book, if you want to understand mediumship from the spiritual point of view of seeing from the side of the spiritual world, in the domains of mediumship, the book that it was mentioned here, where André Luiz describes in many chapters how the mediumship meeting happens from the side of the spiritual world. There is a book recently published by the United States Spiritist Federation, which is Mediumship by Teresinha de Oliveira, which is a very interesting book and very basic in terms of, it gives you the opportunity of learning in a very accessible way. And the United States Spiritist Federation published an online course on mediumship based on that book that you can find it available also online. So these are the resources. I don't know if I forgot any book.
The book from Teresinha de Oliveira is very simple words, very straightforward, and it's not too thick if you don't like to read much, but it's very, very informative. It's a great tool for beginners.
Thank you. Next question is, why don't we see phenomena like table turning anymore as people used to see in the 1800s?
Because they're no longer necessary. That was, you see, why do we study mediumship in Spiritism? For the same reason that if you are a Christian, you have to study Christ. That's Him conveying the message. The whole Spiritism, the whole thing about Spiritism came through mediumship. It was delivered to us through mediumship, so that's why we need to study mediumship. And you know, that's sometimes not understood correctly. So the study of mediumship is going to clarify why we have received what we have received. And in order to market, I'm going to use a very modern term, in order to market mediumship in the beginning, It's like you're calling people to come in here and dragging people over to see something for a concert, for a show, for a presentation. You have to market that. So turning tables and flying chairs was a marketing tool, quotes please, to catch the attention, call people in. And one of these people said, I'm not going to see flying tables and, turning boards because I don't believe this thing. After 3 years of pounding his head, Allan Kardec went to see just to make his friend. So he didn't want to lose his friend of 35 years because the friend said for 3 years, you got to see this, you got to see this. And he said, I'm just going to go because I don't want to lose my friend. I'm going to make him happy. I'm going to go and get away with my life. He goes in and he was prayed to the marketing tool. That's how it all started. So we don't need that anymore. It's been well developed. We have different ways of conveying the information. Marketing has been passed. We passed that time. That's why.
And let's think in practical terms, right? Let's imagine that the Spirit materializes here in front of all of us suddenly. Half of you is going to run away, and the other half is going to be fascinated. And then you go out and you tell your neighbor, I saw a Spirit materialize in front of me. And your neighbor is going to look at you and say, what? You're crazy. Forget about that. So what's the effect of it? There's no point in it, right? Now a book stays. A book you give to your neighbor, they put it aside, and then 6 months, 10 years later, they find a book. Oh, let me read. It's a different time in their life, different mindset, and they're going to read and they're going to take advantage of it. So the time of visual impressions, as Luiz said, it's no longer necessary because there is not much use for it for us nowadays. Chico was told by Emmanuel in the middle of the 50s or beginning of the 50s, enough with the materializations and physical phenomena. Let's work on the books on intelligent phenomena. We no longer need physical phenomena. Now, it does exist, yes. You can find, and a lot of us that have never watched are curious to watch, and I understand. I'm also curious, and I would like to see. But in terms of the beneficial effects for the community, the physical phenomena has lost its purpose.
Yeah. How can someone best utilize their mediumship if there is no Spiritist center and or mediumship meetings available where they live?
Yeah, well, mediumship is two parts. Study and practice. You can never go to practice before studying. You need to be well aware of things. You need to study. You need to get acquainted with what you are going to face. So whether there's a Spiritist center in the area or not, you still have to study first. So studying is a primary in this thing. You can, because the technology is so developed today, you can, I'm not going to say relate, but yeah, maybe relate to a Spiritist center online of your choice. And as you start not going to through a million things online, but choose one that you feel like you have some sort of connection or you create some sort of connection with, and stay with that one. That will create a sense of being connected to the spirit world. And that will allow you to study even more, especially if they hold studies on mediumship and stuff like that. Now, mediumship, Jussara just said that. Mediumship, there's a purpose and a role, which is the charity work of charity. So, because you don't have the opportunity to go to a Spiritist center, because it's not in the area to do your charity, mediumship is one form, you have to do charity in another form. So you can still do charity, even if there's no Spiritist center in your area. You can still do that. But studying comes first. Never stop studying.
Yeah, and form a group in your region. Start studying with a group. Start preparing your group for for starting a Spiritist center and a mediumship group, but definitely do not practice alone. It's too risky, too dangerous, and the consequences can be very negative for you and for those around you. So mediumship, again, exists beyond using it in a mediumship meeting. Work in a hospital, helping as a volunteer in a hospital, you're using your mediumship. Work in a shelter, giving homeless food, you are using your mediumship. By doing charity to others, the mediumship will stop being a burden and will be an instrument of work for you. So there are several ways to use your mediumship that doesn't include working in a mediumship meeting.
Thank you. The lights at home are turning on and off, and some objects have been moving around. Does it mean I'm a medium of physical phenomena, or maybe some neighbor or anyone else around me?
Well, for physical phenomena, it's necessary to have ectoplasm, right? Which is created by each one of our 70 trillion cells. So some people produce more ectoplasm than others. Mediums of physical effects produce much more, even if they're not aware of. So these phenomena, they happen because somebody's donating ectoplasm. Now the spirit who is, discarnate spirit who is doing this, is doing for a purpose, maybe not good, or they just want to frighten you, but he still needs ectoplasm. That's the reason that phenomena is taking place.
And very important, first, check your
Electric circuit.
circuits at home to see if there is nothing wrong there. Check if the window is not open, so objects are flying because of the wind. So after you eliminate all the physical aspects of it, right? Because when we start studying Spiritism, we start thinking that everything is a spirit phenomenon. When we moved to London, when we first left Brazil, we moved to London more than 30 years ago, and we were studying Spiritism. And Janet Duncan, who is still alive at 97 years old, she used to tell us, the homes here in London are very old, so they make noises naturally. Don't think that everything is a spirit here. And I never forgot that. Because, our first reaction is, there's a spirit around. Yeah. And the first thing we need to look for is the non-spiritual case. After we eliminate all the non-spiritual cases, then yes, there is a medium, and maybe it's not you, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's the one that lives next door, or the house next door, because the spirits can use the ectoplasm in other places around you to produce the phenomena. So,
or it can be a combination of neighbors.
Could be a combination. So you move to another place, the phenomena continue to happen, then you can think it may be you, but then you learn what to do with it.
Good. Not sure if you captured this question right, but the way we have it is, why did God prohibit the practice of mediumship?
God never prohibited, as far as I know. Who prohibited was Moses, right? Yeah, and Moses prohibited because they were abusing it, right? They were using the mediumship to ask for physical things, like we still do it today, right? They were how they call the bezerro de ouro, the golden cow, I don't remember the name in English. They were using this, right? So Moses had to be very disciplinary. Imagine us, 4,000 years ago, moving to a desert for 40 years. With, today will be very difficult and unreal. Imagine 4,000 years ago. So the 613 commandments that Moses left to us, which 10 are from God and the rest are disciplinary commandments, They are to educate the people and to control the people. Otherwise, you'll be a mess. So God never, because actually God doesn't forbid anything, right? God creates the natural laws. The natural laws create cause and consequence according to how we behave in relation to the natural laws. Now, Moses, yes, he prohibited mediumship because he wanted to avoid the bad use of mediumship at that time. But it was not something to stay forever, and unfortunately it stayed. But if you go to the Kabbalah, which is the spiritual aspect, more spiritual aspect of Judaism, there is plenty of mediumship there.
Thank you. I think you already answered this, but I'm going to just repeat in case you have anything else to add. How can a medium effectively develop and channel their medium without access to a spiritist center or a mediumnics meetings in their area? I guess you say studying. Anything else you would like to add?
We just addressed that.
Okay, study. Yeah. What is the importance of what is the importance of mediumistic work, probably it's mediumist work in Spiritist Center?
I'm going to talk about that in my presentation.
Yeah, that's his entire presentation.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I'm not going to talk about it now.
Please hold. Your question is going to be answered by the next available agent.
Okay. So the question is, since I was little, I never slept in my home by myself alone. My first time was when I was 26 years old. I'm 40 years old and still afraid to sleep alone. Not sure if it is mediumship that I never developed or it is just fear. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Each case is different. Not necessarily mediumship.
Yeah, the first advice, like with the physical, like with the lights and everything, is did you ever go to the doctor? Did you try to find psychological advices, psychiatrist, psychologist? Can it be mediumship? Yes, it can. But the question is, why are you afraid of it, right? What is behind your fear? That's what you need to find out. And, you have the whole psychological collection of João de Angelis to study if you want to learn more about your inner self. But, if you can go to a spiritist center and talk to someone in the fraternal assistance, that would be recommended because you can go a little bit further on the details of what's happening to you instead of a general question, right? Or there are some fraternal assistance online if you're not close to a spiritist center that you can also try. I think that's the first step because the idea here is we should be more afraid of those that are alive than those that are dead. Or on the other side, because spirits can only affect us if we allow them to affect us. So how we prepare ourselves to deal with these spirits? If we don't know, we are afraid of things we don't know, right? If we learn how to deal with them, if we learn how to educate ourselves, we are going to be more prepared to deal with those. So fraternal assistance, psychological assistance, and all these things are very important because you mentioned fear of being alone, right? Why do you have fear of being alone? That's not a question for the spirits. That is a question for a psychologist, probably, right?
Thank you. Some speakers suggest that mediumship work is almost unnecessary, claiming that spirituality does not need the incarnate to assist suffering spirits. What can be said about this?
I'm going to talk about it also.
Please hold. No, it's okay. It's going to be part of your talk.
We'll hold for the next Q&A
Next available
session.
agent. Yeah. He's right here.
All right, so this one, my kid says she has an imaginary friend. Can it be mediumship?
So, from 0 to 7, we are not fully reconnected with our physical body, our new physical body. We live both here and there, in the spiritual world and in the physical world. So it's very common for children up to around 7 years old, it's not exact, to have imaginary friends. I had one, and I'm not a medium, not an ostensive medium. You know, some people will disagree. It's real. It's not an imaginary friend. It's a spirit that is there communicating with them. It's a real friend. Now, how we deal with it is what's more important behind that question, right? Because we as parents should not dismiss it, but also we should not give too much importance to it. Why? If we dismiss it, we are creating possible traumas in the child, right? Because we are telling them that they are liars when they are not lying. They really have an invisible friend. So we should engage. Why shouldn't we give too much importance? Because children create fantasies. And if we give too much importance, then they'll start creating a lot of fantasies on top of this imaginary friend that exists, right? Because they like to call our attention. They like to receive our care and all the focus, right? So if they see that this is making an effect, they're going to create more on top of that. So treat it naturally. Yes, what they're talking about, wow, how interesting. And engage with them as much as they want to engage, and then move on to the next thing. So be engaging, but not over-engaging, or don't dismiss. Normally, if it continues, when they are going to the teenage phase, it continues, then it's maybe a sign of mediumship. But before that, we shouldn't make any judgments.
Thank you. Can someone be a productive medium even if she follows a different belief system, example, Catholicism, Buddhism, Islam?
Mediumship is not related to a belief system. It has nothing to do with this. There is mediumship practiced and reinforced in different belief systems. So it's not related. You can be a spiritist and be a productive medium, or you can be somewhere else, Buddhist, Judaism, anything else. It's not related to belief system.
How you use it is the question, right? So use it according to how it can be helpful to others. And then it can be in any religion, right? If you are there in the Catholic Church doing the work of helping the needy ones, you are using your mediumship, right? Sometimes without even knowing.
Why are many mediums found in mental institutions?
Because they don't know how to use the mediumship they have been granted with properly. They allow themselves to be dominated by the spirits, which might be even good spirits, but they might feel weird that they have this ability to communicate. They don't handle well, right? Like, as you were saying. And they just go crazy about it. They can't take that. At one point, they'll say to themselves, I can't take this anymore. I'm getting crazy. I'm going to get treated. And it's nothing like this. That's nothing like this. It's just a matter of, like he said, knowing how to deal with it.
Great. And the last one that we have is, should mediumship be studied systematically as opposed to reading books randomly? Are Spiritist centers offering mediumship courses?
So the first question depends on your objective. you want to just learn more about mediumship, but you're not interested in practicing it, or you're not, you just want to know more about the mechanics of it or how it works, then you can read random books. You don't really need to focus on study. Now, if you want to learn mediumship, to educate your own mediumship, or to work in a mediumship meeting, or you plan to develop further, then you need to follow a course. It's more recommended that you follow a course, you study, you follow an organized study. And again, the United States Spiritist Federation has a course on mediumship based on the book Mediumship by Teresinha de Oliveira in English, right? And if you want to learn more about mediumship and in Portuguese, I would highly recommend to watch Jacobson Trovão from the Brazilian Spiritist Federation. He has a course on mediumship that is excellent also. So depends on your objective. If your objective is just curiosity, then you can read whatever, because it's good. It's always good. We are always learning. It's important to learn. And again, we need to focus on what matters to us, right? So for those who want to develop further in psychology and spirituality, you read João de Angelis. For those that want to learn more about life in the spiritual world, you study Manuel Filomeno de Miranda and André Luiz. Now, we don't have the ability to embrace everything. So make your choices and go deeper on what you like, because we want to specialize on what you like and what attracts you. Because you cannot force yourself to do something just because you need, it's, I need to learn more about psychology, so I need to read João de Angelis. And then you start reading her books, and they are so hard, and if it's not your area of interest, you're going to do what Luiz said with the mechanics of mediumship. You're going to throw away and say, I'm never going to come back to that. But, for people that are interested, our good friend Marcia here, right? She goes deeper into it because it's her area of interest. So choose your lane and go deeper into your lane in whatever area you choose in Spiritism. You have the philosophy of Spiritism. You have the scientific aspect. You have the moral evangelical aspect. Very few of us can embrace everything, because we're not there yet. So at the moment, let's try to focus on what matters to us. And it can be mediumship, it can be other things in Spiritism.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Just 1 second. I have a question.
Are we allowed to ask a direct question?
Sure.
Please do.
My question is based on Luiz's lecture. I understand the analogy between the transformer changing the input to the output. When it relates to the Earth's electromagnetic field, how exactly does that change the discarnate spirit's mental current to the medium's mental current? What's the change there?
Oh, in the electrical part, the physical part, the magnet is uniform that we showed. That's why you can charge a phone, because the magnetic field generated there is uniform. It never changes. It's never a little bit more, a little bit less. When you go to the bottom of the screen, right, which is the mediumistic part, the Earth is not doesn't have a uniform, a uniform electromagnetic field. We have what we call anomalies. So certain areas have more concentration of electromagnetism than other areas. So for example, we know that in Brazil, in the central of Brazil, there's one of these anomalies. Another one is in Ireland. So in places like this, the ability that the medium has, the type of mediumship, can be different if the medium is in these areas as opposed to being somewhere else in the planet. So you might have one type of mediumship produced in the central Brazil as opposed to Japan, for example, if you travel there. That's the influence of the electromagnetic field of the Earth on mediumship.
Okay. One follow-up to that. So is it possible for the mental current of a discarnate spirit to directly affect the mental current of a medium without the influence of the Earth's electromagnetic field?
No, because you need a magnet, and the magnet is the Earth electromagnetic field. It has to go through it. Okay, and like I said in the lecture, if you are in a different planet, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, whatever it is, it's going to be different because they have their own each one of these planets have their own electromagnetic field. You're welcome.
Okay, so we do have a few more questions. So to Luiz, Spiritism is so logical, right? We've seen this with the books and the methodological way. Why Spiritism is still not fully embraced by the scientific community?
Because it's not their quest. I'll explain. If you think about the creation, okay, we have God, the supreme intelligence. From God, two things emanate. One is the spiritual principle, and the other is the universal cosmic fluid. The universal cosmic fluid contains the germs of everything that one day is going to be matter of any form. The spiritual principle has the germs of anything that one day is going to be spirit. There is no common point between the two. No common point. There's not a single piece of matter in the spirit world, in the spiritual principle. There's not a single piece of spiritual principle in the material principle. So, who studies what? Science studies this side here, the universal cosmic fluid. They're going deeper and deeper. That's quantum physics is getting to. It's getting deeper, way past, atoms and stuff like that. They study this. We study this. We, as spiritists, we never go to a chemical lab to run experiments. We never go to a physics lab to run experiments. We use the results that they produce. We use the knowledge that they provide to us. By the same token, they will never come here to learn anything, to pick up information. So it's not their part to ever discover God, which we spiritists have been expecting. It's never going to happen. They will never prove the existence of spirits because that's not their quest. They're working here with cells and atoms and quarks and hadrons and subparticles and even subparticles. They are not going to come here. That's why. It's not for them.
Then another one for João. How can a non-extensive medium be of use in a mediumistic meeting?
I've been working in a mediumistic meeting for more than 20 years, and I'm not an ostensive medium, right? A mediumship meeting is composed of more than mediums. You have the dialoguers, and you have the supporting group. So if you are not an ostensive medium and want to participate in a mediumship meeting, yes, there is a lot of work. The most important part of the mediumship meeting are those that are supporting it. Those that stay there without saying anything, just sending the vibrations to harmonize the ambient, to allow the spirits to communicate, to allow the mediums to communicate, to allow the dialoguers to have a conversation with the spirits. And sometimes they think that they are of no importance, and they are the most important part of the mediumship meeting. The mediums actually are the least important part. I'm not a medium, I hope they don't crucify me, but they are there just to be the intermediates, right? Of course, without them, there is no mediumship meeting, right? So they're important. We are all important in a mediumship meeting. But the mediums, their focus needs to be a good channel. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on my presentation. But their role is to be a good channel, a clean channel for the spirits to communicate. If they are, that's all it's needed. So they just need to do that work. Now, for those that are in the supporting, that are not mediums, are not dialoguers, to keep their concentration and focus and vibrations elevated for 1 hour, for sometimes more than 1 hour, it's hard. That requires a lot, because we dialoguers, we're talking with the spirit, so time goes by when we're talking. The mediums are there in a trance, so they are not even seeing the time going by. The ones that are in the support, time can go very slow for them, and they are very, very important. So if you want to be part of a mediumship meeting, and if you are willing to serve in the supporting team, you're very important and very needed, because that's what many mediumship meetings need and don't have, people that stay supporting.
Thank you. One more question. What can be said about people who develop their mediumship, become capable of working, but choose not to do so and often suffer as a result?
You should work. You should work. That's why you had been granted the ability to practice mediumship. So you were kind of going against God's will, in a way, ultimately.
We are eternal spirits. The only thing you are doing is postponing the responsibility.
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with it. You don't want to deal with it in this life, that's fine. You're going to deal with it next life. But the more you postpone, the more difficult it will become. So the sooner you deal with it, the better for you in your spiritual evolvement. But if you don't want to do it right now, that's fine. You can create some problems in your physical life, this existence, but you are just postponing the problem.
Yeah, you're not supposed to atrophy mediumship.
And I'm not sure if that's the case with you guys, but what are the do's and don'ts of being married to a medium?
We don't pick a spouse by being or not a medium. You see, it goes back to what I said. Who am I, who are any of us to say the do's and don'ts? We are not owners of the truth. We don't publish the truth. Do and don't depend on a reference. So there's a purpose for that spouse to be a medium, and it has to be respected by anybody, not only the spouse, by anyone. It's just a purpose in life. The same way I have my purpose, every one of us have our purpose, and it has to be respected. Even better, if we can support them, and we should, even better, to help them grow and achieve their purpose in life, the same way we expect the same from our spouse, to be supported, to, grow with us, walk with us towards whatever our objectives are in life.
So I think that question was for me, right? Because I am married to a medium, right? So don't doubt them, right? Because they are mediums, so they are in connection with the spiritual world. And if you doubt them, you are going to create problems for yourself and for the relationship. Do educate yourself, learn more about mediumship, because it will help you to understand them better and to deal with them better. So in my personal case, when I met Jussara, I was not a spiritist. I was not even interested in it. And she was already a medium, already working with mediumship. And I slowly became more interested in spiritism, and eventually ended up here, right? Giving talks and presentations and talking about it. But it was a teamwork, in the sense that she pushed me into learn more about spiritism and to be more interested in what she was working with in Spiritist Center and with mediumship. So the fact that I learned about it, and the fact that we can work together helps a lot in terms of teamwork, right? For those that are married to a medium or a spiritist and are not interested in it at all, it doesn't mean that your marriage is not going to be a good marriage, but it creates difficulties that may not need to be there. if you have a little bit of interest, right? When our spouses work, we are interested in what they do, right? We want to learn more about their work, even if we're not interested a lot, but we should learn more about the type of work they do so we can have some sort of dialogue and conversation. So if you are married to a medium, learn more about, study mediumship, learn more about it. It's going to help you. It's going to help the relationship for sure.
Thank you. How can a medium deal with fear or insecurity related to their mediumship?
Study.
Study
more.
Study. Yes, the more you know, the less fear you're going to have. Because, again, we fear the unknown. If it becomes known, we have a good chance of losing our fear. So, learn, study, educate.
And similar to, or continuation to that question, what are the main challenges that mediums face when they begin their education?
I think it's first understanding their purpose, why they have the ability to produce what they will produce, why they are mediums. It has to do with the spiritual history, and just it's their quest in life. So let's just do it right. Have confidence in your ability to produce what you're supposed to, and I think that's the major. Not the major, but the first barrier. Will I be able to? Will I not be able to? You have to have confidence. You have to create that confidence. And studying, like you were saying, studying helps a lot.
Don't fear all the problems that happen in the beginning, because normally a lot of things happen to deviate you from your path, because you are more susceptible to spiritual influences when you are still not sure on what you're doing. Once you become convicted that that's your path, that you are going to follow regardless of the disturbances that happen around you, the disturbances will diminish and even disappear. So a medium that educates oneself, consequently, the spiritual disturbances will disappear, even because they will learn how to ignore the disturbances. Normally what I say when someone comes to the Spiritist Center and says, oh, I think I'm a medium because I keep hearing and spirits all the time. I can keep having these spirits coming and talking to me, and I cannot live with that. And the example I give is, you live in a house, right? Do you leave the door of your house open for everyone that passes by to come through and to go in your house and out? Or do you keep your door closed and you only allow those that you want to come into your house? That's the same thing with mediumship. You close the door to all spirits around you, and you start choosing the spirits you are going to listen to. So you learn how to ignore the noise. The noise will be there, but you learn how to ignore it, right? When you live in New York City, like I do, right, you live surrounded by noise. And you learn how to disconnect from the noise, how to ignore the noise that happens all the time around you. So it's an education. And the same thing with mediumship. You educate yourself, you learn to ignore the spirits that are there just to bother you. But it needs practice, it needs continuing learning and educating yourself, right? But once you learn, once it becomes part of you, then you are not going to face any more problems with it.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, guys, for this enlightening session. Please join me.
Thank you.